program. I hope you've been strengthened and blessed in the things of the Lord. I want to speak to you tonight on the subject of victim mongering and soul stealing. This is a subject that we've dealt with before, but that pertaining to soul stealing is vitally important that you get it in your heart and get it in your mind. The human soul is comprised of four components. It's comprised of your mind, your will, your intellect, and your emotions. To know that is to know this, that the whole battle, the whole warfare is pertaining to the soul of man. The devil wants your soul. God wants your soul. And men want your soul. If I am able to conquer just one component of the four, if I'm able to control your intellect, then you know nothing but what I tell you. You know nothing to believe but what I tell you to believe. I own you. If the component that I control is that of your emotions, then likewise I control you like a puppet. I can be much dumber than you. But if I have an emotional hold on you, I can control you like a puppet. And you've seen that done many times in your lifetime. The soul stealers. Many areas and avenues they go down and work to steal the soul for the purpose of conquering. That is the reason the soul is attacked. Whosoever gains control, or rules the soul of the multitude, they rule. Now, we're going into what the Bible has called many times during the course of Israel's sojourn with the Lord. Many times the Bible spoke of and warned Israel of that a time of trouble was coming. Now, trouble is a part of our world. You don't live without trouble. But when the Bible warned of a time of trouble coming, it was not normal trouble or normal difficulties. It was, in fact, bad trouble. I warned you not long ago in a program that we did that I titled From November to November, which was a program telling you of the trouble that you was going to see come about from this November, starting this November, to next November. This November to next November begins a year of the election process for the presidency of the United States of America. And you are going to see the most violent, the ugliest, criminal behavior that you have ever seen. You're going to see the most vile treatment of humanity that you have ever seen in your lifetime. From November now to next November, anything is capable of happening. The reason for it is people goes about sowing corrupt seeds. And when the time of that harvest begins to come in, if someone rises up to threaten that harvest of evil that has been sown, it causes a violent reaction. Or the other is, evil seeds are sown, and if no one even rises up against it, sooner or later the evil will manifest and come to power. Thus the Bible warns us, woe be unto you when the wicked bear rule, because the harvest comes in. Any way it goes, it is trouble and a time of trouble. Now, as we move into this period of time, we're going to see the soul stealers arise and attack. And right now, it's not the black man that's being verbally attacked and even physically attacked. Right now, it's not the Indian that's being attacked. If you have any honesty at all, it is the colleges that's attacking white men. It is the colleges and the music industry and the Hollywood that is attacking white Christianity. That's just what they're doing. I can play you clip after clip after clip after clip. No white zones in school. Try no Indian zone. Try no black zone and get away with it. But there's hardly nothing being said about the no white zones. Organizations that's setting up in colleges all across this nation. That is one of its requirements. No whites allowed. Try that with Indians, Hispanics, or blacks and see how far it gets. It's just a fact. That's what's happening. The reason for that is there is an attempt to steal the soul and to victim monger so that you can get the sympathies of a people to destroy another group of people because they won't power themselves. They won't control themselves. Now, we have been the better part of 6 to 8 years that we've received almost no bad calls, bad letters, almost none. It's starting now because we're running now from November to November, and that's the way it's going to be. I encourage you to contact your television stations that airs this program and let them know just what you think about this program, because the enemies will start screaming racism and all that mess, and the TV stations has a tendency to listen to one caller that's disgruntled. So it'd be wise for you to text, write, send a letter, or call in and let the television stations know just how much you care for this TV program, that your voice be heard. We got some calls that come in and some messages that come in over the last program that began to attack the white man and tell me how wicked and racist I am and we are. And of course, I was raised in a black church or pastored by a black man. Half of my congregation has always been black. That's some kind of a Ku Klux Klansman, ain't it? It's absolute nonsense in the mouth of idiot fools. Nonetheless, the calls has been coming in about how evil and wicked the white men were, and it's coming from white people, I might add. How evil and wicked the white men was to come in here and steal the land from the Indians. So I want to spend just a few minutes tonight addressing that subject with a few minutes that we have. Do you know where the first shots of the American Indian War was actually fired? Where the war really came to be a war. It was in a place called Jamestown, Virginia. There was groups of settlers there, Englishmen, white people, that was there that it came from England. Now mind you, first point, these settlers that came from England did not come on naval ships. They did not come with a military. They had none. They came by themselves. So the first thing that strikes me as interesting is how that these liberal leftist extremists that keeps hollering about the white man coming over here. Well, whenever the white man first got here, he was an immigrant. And I thought that you loved immigrants. I thought that immigrants was always welcomed, and it was only racist and the wicked devils that would stand in the way of an immigrant migrating to this country. Well, mind you, that the Englishmen that came over here did not come on warships. They were just people escaping persecution. And they came to America. They had no means to fight the Indians. Very few in number was coming. The Indians had the land established. The Indians outnumbered them 100,000 to 1. Now, the Indians was broke up in tribes. It was not one massive race of Indians that were peaceful, loving people. No, it was multiple tribes of Indians, all of which fought against each other for power and control. Anytime we deal with any event in world history, it becomes vitally important that you do not forget to apply the human nature factor, okay? Multiple tribes in this land of Indians that for gain, for power, for control, for dominance, was at war with one another, just like everywhere else in the world and like everybody else in the world. Then there were these immigrants that came from England in small numbers, migrated into this land. When they got here, it wasn't just Indians and just different tribes of Indians. But there were Spanish colonies here. There was Dutch colonies here. There were French colonies here. All kinds of people was here. The Englishman was just another group of people that came. Now, history shows that the Spanish, their desire was to get the Indians to follow them. Now, remember, there's merchants, there's trade, there's wealth, there's crops. It's all about the same thing it's always been about. And the Spanish wanted the Indians to follow them. History shows that the Dutch and the French together wanted to follow the Indians because they wanted to use the Indians to make money, to further their gains, and to further their productivities. Now, something happened in the early 1600s in Jamestown. There was a severe famine or drought, hard times. Some reports even shows that the English colony there had even began to practice cannibalism because they were starving to death. Some things turned about and came about where they survived that year, and tobacco became an issue. And they began to grow and harvest. And they began to grow and harvest more. And they began to grow and harvest more. They were a self-producing people. They were not like the Spanish, who history shows wanted the Indians to follow them. They were not like the Dutch and the French, who wanted to follow the Indians. These was a group of people who survived the hardest times of death. And through whatever means it came to be, they became self-productive. Now, the Indian tribe that ruled in that area was the strongest and very, very vicious, was the Powhatan tribe. And this did not sit well with them. There are people who want to control and keep other people under their feet. And when they see a person rising in success, it generally gives birth to envy, intimidation, and fear. Well, these English colonies in Jamestown was becoming self-productive. They didn't want the Indians to follow them, and they didn't want to follow the Indians. They were simply growing, thriving, self-producing. The Powhatan Indians saw this as a threat, and as history records it, led a massacre into that colony at Jamestown, killing 347 that day, which totaled 1/4 of the entire colony. Just 347 people, 1/4 of the entire colony. That's not a large number of people. But this massacre was severe, more severe than one can even imagine. As these Powhatan Indians came down with knives, hatchets, axes, and they butchered, slaughtered, and cut to pieces men, women, and children. Mind you now, it was not the evil white man from England that came over here and attacked the Indians. Why, anyone with a grain of sense at all would know that that simply could not happen. They came as refugees. They came as immigrants in small numbers. It was not them at Jamestown that attacked the Indians. It was the Powhatan Indians that attacked them. Why? For no other reason than they felt as though they may be losing control over another group of people. Why is it that one's strength is a constant threat to others? It is because they are weak. You see, a strong person may not be as smart as the person across from them. A strong person may not be as industrial minded as the next person. But a strong person is strong because they look at what you're doing, seek your advice, because their desire is, I want to be strong like you are. See, that's good. That's a good world right there. But when weak souls sees other people gaining, other people becoming self-productive, it scares them, for they believe that their power now is at threat. And they're not capable, obviously, of doing what the other people are doing, producing what the other people's producing, and so they seek to destroy them. Remember Samson? The Philistines, how they wanted to know what they could do to rid themselves of Samson, this powerful, mighty man. What did they hate about him? His strength. They sent woman after woman, person after person, with one mission: find out what makes him so strong. Well, that's good. Find out what makes him strong so that we can learn to do what he's doing and be strong like him. But that's not what motivated the Philistines. What motivated the Philistines was to find out what makes him so strong so that we can take it from him and make him weak like us. All that happened in Jamestown was a group, a colony, a small colony of Englishmen that survived the greatest of troubles and came out and found a way to be productive and grow. And it became a threat to this particular tribe of Indians in Virginia. And they led a butchering attack against them. And only then, as we grew, did we begin to fight and protect ourselves. One message that I would give to all people everywhere, individually, nationally, wherever or whatever. Don't start no fight that you can't finish. Now, with that said, is it wrong that one people conquer the land that another people was in? Or is that how the entire world works? To blame the American white man for coming over here and conquering a land that belonged to other peoples is simply false. They came over here and they got attacked by the ruling class of this land. They simply fought back and won. That's how the world works. The spoil goes to the victor. It's how it's worked in Spain. It's how it's worked in Russia. It's how it's worked in China. It's how it's worked in every land on the face of this earth. The people who rule in all the lands of the world right now is not of the same mindset or the same order as people that ruled before them. It's all shifted hands. It's the way it's done. But remember this. The American white man did not come here on naval ships of war to attack anybody. They were fleeing persecution themselves. They came to a new land where other people was already here. French, Spanish, all kinds of people. It's just that these particular people drew the attention of the ruling class, the Indians, because they were productive. And they were becoming non-interested in chasing, following, or having you follow me. We're just simply doing our thing. And so it's prospering. I'm sorry that we have prospered. I'm sorry that my labor has produced. God, forgive me, you ignorant liberal. God, forgive me for prospering. And so the ruling class of that day attacked those prospering souls. And at the end of the day, those prospering souls won the victory. Is that wrong? In Exodus 6:8 it says, "And I will bring you into the land concerning thee, which I did swear to give it to Abraham, to Isaac, to Jacob, and I will give it you for a heritage, for I am the Lord." Now there's many scriptures that speaks on the promised land that God gave to Israel. As Israel was coming out of Egypt, they were going to a promised land. Who promised the land? God did. Well, after 40 years of going front and back, backwards and forwards, sinning, messing up, they finally got there. And when they got there, the spies went and looked over into the land and came back with a fearful report and said, the people that occupy the land are much greater than we are. They outnumber us. And besides that, they are a huge people. And the report was, back to Moses, we are but grasshoppers in their sight. And they were intimidated and fearful. Only 2 of those spies had the courage to stand on the promise of God's word that this was a promised land that was given to them. It was Joshua and Caleb. And said, we're more than able to take it. So, God, the God of the Bible, sent Israel to a land that when they got there was occupied by other nations and other people. But God said, this is the land I'm giving to Israel. And so Israel had to fight, and with God's blessing, the Bible said God gave them the land of promise that was beforehand promised to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I'm sorry, but this is the way the world has always worked. And in order to gain the truth of history, gain the knowledge of the truth concerning events of our world, well, you don't know who shot the first shot. You can't know. You wasn't there. I wasn't there. We have history. And one of the things that we can do is we can look at what parts of the history are not contested. A few people came over on ships with no military, that's a fact. No military ships, that's a fact. They came over destitute. They came over hungry. They set up in a land, in this case, Jamestown, Virginia, where they nearly starved to death. Surviving those hellish times, they become self-productive people that brought fear upon the local tribes of the Indians, which attacked them, butchered them, and finally those people rose up and fought back. Human nature is after the money, after the gold. Human nature is after control, after power. And the Englishmen that came here from Great Britain was not in control when they got here. They did not start a war. They did not start a fight. They were too few in number, had no arms, and had no military. How did they come here looking for a fight? They came here, and again I emphasize, they became self-productive. Blessed. In a land that, can you say God didn't send them? For you see, the gods that was worshipped in this land by the Indians was not the God of the Bible that beforehand had promised the land to Israel in Palestine. But the people that came from England and went over into that land, that nature was being worshipped, post was being worshipped, totem poles was being worshipped. When the people that brought with them the knowledge of the God of the Bible, they survived the hardest imaginable days. Then they became self-productive and increased. These things are the things that the Almighty calls blessings.
Though the darkest night shall fall, I will not fear at all. Though this battle rages on, in thy name I shall stand strong. Though friends and family depart, I will not let that steal my heart. My hands on the plow, I won't look back. I run this race till it's done. I fight this fight till it's won. Will not fear what man can do. Where I go from here is up to you. 'Cause you my rock, my light, my love. I run this race till it's done. Fight this fight till it's won. Hands on the plow, I won't look back. Hands on the plow, I won't look back. I won't look back. Hands on the plow, I won't look back. Though the night is long, hands on the plow, I won't look back. Though the battle rages on and on and on, hands on the plow, I won't look back.